الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى الطاهرين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر إن الأرض يرثيها عباد الصالحون. صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد. As always, let us recite the 62nd verse of Surah Al-Naml for all those that are suffering from COVID, from other health issues, from our brothers in Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, whatever, mu'mineen, mu'minat, muslimin, muslimat, whatever human beings are suffering, let's pray for them all. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. فاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My dear brothers and sisters, before we start today's lecture, can I have 3 very loud salawats for Brother Misam? He's been working very hard in the background to make sure the recordings go off properly, the sisters can hear us properly, and then everything's uploaded on YouTube as well. So 3 loud salawats for Brother Misam and his family. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can I just ask one last request? Please move forward. There will be other people coming later, and it will be easier for them to fill the back rather than come in front of you. So please move forward. One loud salawat, please, and move forward. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. For you guys in the back. My dear brothers and sisters, it's been my privilege and honor to be amongst you for the last 10 nights. How quickly they've passed, as it just feels like yesterday that we were sitting down together for the first time. We have been looking at this ayah of the Holy Quran. This ayah talks about the earth being inherited by Ibad al-Salihin. This community, this group that the Imams have said will be the helpers of Imam Zamana when he comes. They will inherit the earth, they will run the world. And we've been trying through the examples of the various prophets to take from them, from the prophets, examples for us to apply to our lives in terms of what we need to do in preparing for the return of the Imam. And if we are there when the Imam does return, how will we form part of this great group that will be helping him? Unfortunately, we don't have time for a recap, so if those of you that do want to go back over it, the recordings are online at Al-Qaim's website or on YouTube, so please feel free to sort of listen to those. If there's any questions, as always, I make myself available afterwards, so if you've got questions on that. And then I was talking to some brothers yesterday who want to continue having gatherings after Ashura, and the current thought process is that we'd inshallah have it on Friday nights, obviously subject to the committee and the organisers approving it. Friday night, inshallah, 7:30 here in the mosque, so that'll be just before the Salah. So those that do want to participate, do want to continue, I will certainly be making myself available. And we'll start off with some Tafsir of the Quran, some basic discussion of Ahkam, and then whatever the areas of discussion that people want. And it will be open to sisters as well. Okay, and in the past, I think when we've organised this, only me brothers, so it will be open to sisters as well. I have to run it past this committee, so I'm announcing it before they're running it past the committee, but I'm sure they won't mind after their announcement yesterday. Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. My dear brothers and sisters, most of the lessons that I've given you so far have come from the Holy Quran. I've given you references, I've given you homework to go away, to think about, to read those surahs and those verses of the Holy Quran with yourselves, with your parents. I would strongly encourage you to continue doing that. As I said a few nights ago, take a bit of time out of your on your social media activities, on your streaming activities. Just allocate half an hour. If you can do it half an hour a day, fantastic. If not, then do an hour a week. If not, then try to come here, and as I said, inshallah, we'll try to have gatherings and discussions here in the center every Friday night. So try to join that, but please make an effort. Make an effort. As we're going to go through a very lengthy hadith of Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam. I'm jumping the gun here, but he discusses in quite detail what it means to take knowledge and what we need to do with the knowledge. Okay? And as I said, we'll go through it in detail. But the key message is spend time with the Holy Quran. Spend time with the Holy Quran. There is wonderful, wonderful stories in the Holy Quran. Wonderful stories. If you thought that the visuals that you get on the streaming channels, and what a great movie, what great action, a lot of the stories are taken and inspired by the stories of the great prophets. Okay? But unlike those movies that are just there to entertain you, these stories will inspire you and will give you lessons to apply throughout your daily lives. Okay? So that's why they're very important. The hadith that I'm going to narrate to you, it's a very famous hadith. It's narrated by a companion of a man at the time of Imam Ja'far Sadiq. His name was Anwan al-Muhammad. His name was Anwan al-Basri. Now, Anwan, when he went to visit Imam, he was 94 years old. Okay? Basri means he was from Basra. And he narrates the hadith, Alam al-Majlisi records it, giving references to a number of other scholars that previously recorded. And the few scholars that I have sat with who narrated this and explained this to me, this hadith, have said that many of our great scholars in Najaf and Qom quite often carry this hadith with them in their pocket. And the reason they do that is they reference it, they refer to it on a regular basis. Okay? They refer to it on a regular basis because it's a constant reminder of some basic principles that you need in your life. And that's why I thought it's that we should narrate this hadith and spend a bit of time, and if by chance that you may take something, maybe one line, 2 lines, or 1 or 2 lessons from this hadith. So this man came to Medina, obviously to do ziyarah of the Holy Prophet, and when he was in Medina, he used to visit Malik ibn Anas, who was the writer of Muwatta. So one of the famous 4 scholars of the Sunni. Okay, he used to visit, he acknowledged, he says, I used to come and visit him when he was in Medina. Imam Sadiq was there at the time, I thought I'd visit him. So when he comes to Imam Sadiq says, I'm busy, this is my time for my ibadat. He has his lectures in the mosque where he has questions and answers, and he has other lectures. But the man came to see him, he said, listen, I'm busy with this is my time for my ibadat. Why don't you go back to Malik and ask him your questions? It comes some questions, he said, go to Malik. And this is what Imam Ja'far Sadiq, it's a very important element of this hadith that I want to narrate to you. This hatred that we've got between us and the Sunnis. Right? We have to stop this. Okay? They may hate us, but we have to stop it. And then we'll go through this hadith. I think this helps us in how to address it. Okay? We have to stop it. For the sake of the Muslim. For the sake of Imam Islam. Yes, we're a small community, but the Muslim Ummah has to unite. And not only the Muslim Ummah, the rest of humanity, we have to bring them in with us. If we can't even bring our fellow Muslims who are 95% on the same line as ourselves, on the same teachings as ourselves, 95%, if not higher, then what hope do we have of bringing total strangers? Okay? So Imam Sadiq in this is saying, ask Malik. Okay? Ask Malik. If you've got questions, just ask him. Imam Jafar Sadiq trained all of these great scholars. The four Sunni scholars, great scholars, Imam Sadiq trained them. And again, if you refer back to, I don't know whether you have a recording or not, but a speech I gave on Imam Sadiq's Waladat, we trace that back. He trained them. All of these scholars were his students. Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmad Imam, they were all trained by the teaching of Imam Muhammad Baqir or Imam Jafar Sadiq. Okay? So they train these scholars. Okay? Afterwards, people misinterpret some of their teachings and they've gone off on a different path. But we need to bring people back together. Okay? So Imam tells him, go. And Anwar at this point says, something happened inside me. Remember, he's 94. Something inside hurt me. Something happened. I went to the grandson of the Holy Prophet, and he said, go to someone else. He goes, I went back to Masjid Nabi, I prayed 2 rakats, and said, oh Prophet, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the haqq of the Holy Prophet, bring the heart of Sadiq towards me. Okay? He goes, I then went back to where I was staying, and I just got frustrated. This is the beginning of this. I just got frustrated. I had to go back to Imam Sadiq. So he went back. The person who was administrating Imam's house opened the door, and he said, I have come to see Imam. Imam said, the person said, this is his time of worship. So Imam divided his day up, right? This was his time of worship. If you take a seat, when he's free, I'll call you. So I sat there, the man called me, and he took me to see Imam Sadiq. So it was just him and Imam Sadiq. Okay? See what great lengths this man has gone to get just an audience with the Holy Imam. How old is he? 94 years old. He's at the end of his life. What is the question he asks the Imam? The Imam goes, after salam, dua, who are you, where have you come from? The Imam says, so what is your hajat? Why have you come here? What is your question? And Imam says, oh Imam, I have come to you to seek knowledge from you. To seek knowledge from you. A 94-year-old man is still pursuing knowledge. He didn't limit it, say knowledge of Islam, knowledge of this. He said, no, I have come to you to seek knowledge. 94 years old. The opening statement of this hadith, he was 94 when this incident happened. Okay? There is no limit to learning, acquiring knowledge. No limit at all. From the cradle to the grave, acquire knowledge. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us here. Be curious like Hazrat Ibrahim. Constantly, he was a great prophet. He had insights that no one else had, but he was constantly asking, constantly inquiring. Oh Allah, how will you put that life back together? Right? Do you remember that story? Okay? So constantly inquire. So he starts off with this statement. He says, I've come to acquire knowledge. Imam says to him, he says, ليس العلم بالتعليم إنما هو النور يقع في القلب. Knowledge is not by learning. Now, I have to be careful and qualify this because I know some of you are going to just take this statement and quote it to your parents. See, Brother Faisal said, knowledge is not acquired by learning. So I don't have to learn anything. No, that's not what it means. That's what the Imam goes on and clarifies this. That's not what it means. Okay? Knowledge is not acquired just by learning. Right? What does that mean? It means not just by, let me read it, I've learnt it, memorized it, I'm done. That is not knowledge. That is not knowledge. That is just going from A to B in your class and making sure you pass the exam. That is not knowledge. The true great scholars in whatever field. And if there's one thing I really pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in 20 years time, if I'm still alive, someone bumps into me, that I sat in your majlis and I've just finished my PhD in some scientific topic. that would be the greatest achievement ever. That would be the greatest achievement. I'm talking to the youngsters here. Not the ones talking or playing games, but I'm talking to the rest of you who are focused. I'm really talking to the ones that are focused. Aspire to the heights. Push yourself in whatever field you go. Engineering, in whether it's mechanical, chemical, whether it's civil engineering, whether it's architecture. Push yourself to the limits. Push yourselves to the forefront. Whether it's computing, whether it's economics, whether it's whatever field you want to go, really push yourselves. Be the best at it. Don't do it for the sake of just, I'm going through the motions. Do it because you genuinely want to acquire the knowledge. The Imam continues, he says, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, أن يهدي فإن أردت العلم فطلب الأول في نفسك الحقيقة العبودية. Sorry. وهو نور يقع في القلب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plants the seeker of the knowledge. He plants that knowledge in their hearts. If you're sincere and you really want it, He plants that knowledge in their hearts. But first, the first step, and if you really want to acquire knowledge, and I said in any field, it's not qualifying, it's in any field, right? The first thing you have to realize is who you are and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. You have to become, and in the past, the translators will translate it as you have to become a servant of Allah, a slave of Allah. Nowadays, it's been translated as you have to become God-centric. And that's probably a better translation for the modern world, for us, this generation, right? God-centric. We're not here to, I do not want to make slaves of you, but I want you to become God-centric. Now, what does that mean? It means you make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the be-all and end-all. Okay? You make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the focus of all of your attention. الطلب العلم باستعماله. Seek knowledge, but utilize it. Don't limit it to your textbook. Utilize the knowledge. That's what I say. Push yourselves in whatever field you decide to go in. Push yourselves to the top. Push yourself. Utilize it. Okay? وَإِسْتَفْهَامَ اللَّهِ يَفْهَمْكُمْ. And He will make you understand. If you utilize the knowledge, if you practice the knowledge, if you practice in that field, right, you will understand it, you'll become the expert. But if you're doing it just because you want to acquire, you want to go through and get a certificate at the end of it, you're not going to benefit from that knowledge. Okay? Remember, modern science, 100% came from Imam Saleh. 100%. I have no problems debating that with anyone. Right? His teachings, his students, they were usually the founders of many of the modern sciences that you study today. Okay? But that's the approach. Immerse yourself. Think about it practically. How are you going to apply it? Apply it. Utilize the knowledge. Don't think it's just a textbook thing. At this point, Anwan asks, what is the reality? He obviously picked up the key point here. It's becoming God-centric. So if I'm going to benefit from the knowledge, how do I become what's called God-centric? Or how to become a slave of Allah? Imam continues, he says, there are three things. The first is that you never think that you own anything yourself. Okay? So, it's a bit of an unusual idea. If you genuinely want to be that state, if you genuinely want to be about the Salihin, you never think that you own anything yourself. What does that mean? We live in a capitalist society. What does that mean? It's about acquiring as much wealth as possible. We reward the people that acquire the best, and they are the brilliant minds, the Bill Gates of the world, who told us about COVID way before everyone else. Right? People like that, they're admired, they're great minds, because how much they're worth, billions and trillions of dollars. The Imam says, no, you have to detach yourself. He doesn't say don't acquire, he says that detach yourself. Why? Because you're born without any wealth, you're born empty-handed, and you're going to leave empty-handed. The moment you become attached to this, that becomes your God. That becomes your obsession. He's not saying live in poverty. Do not anyone take this away in the wrong way. I want our community to be the richest, the most intelligent, the most powerful community. I want them, okay? Take my message and take it absolutely clearly. I do not want this message of poverty. It really hurts me when I hear this, or live a life of poverty. No, it's not the way the Imams taught us, right? But don't become attached to it. There's a difference. Wealth is there. Do not become attached. Because the moment you become attached, you won't, as he goes on to say, you won't utilize it for Allah's needs, for the needs of your community. Slaves see wealth as that of Allah and place it wherever He has commanded them. If zakat is due, they'll pay zakat. If khums is due, they'll pay khums. If the center needs money, they'll give the center the money. If people in Afghanistan are struggling, they'll send money over there. And if it's not just money and wealth, then they'll provide their knowledge. If it's not just their knowledge, they'll provide their connections. They'll see, they utilize all of the resources available before them for the rest of the community and the rest of the ummah. But if you become attached to it, you're not going to do that. You want to hoard it and accumulate more. Secondly, a slave does not plan his own affairs, being entirely occupied with Allah. Again, be careful on this statement. It's not saying you don't plan ahead. So when you're planning ahead, think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects of you. If you want to go on a journey, think about, okay, what times are the salah? Where can I play my salah? I'm fasting today. If I want to keep my fast, shall I leave after Zuhrayn prayers? And such rules. You think constantly about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enters your life. The teachings of Ahlul Bayt enter your life. They become part of your life. So when you're planning in accordance to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're entirely occupied with what Allah the Exalted has commanded him to do and prohibited him from doing. Every time they think, before they take an action, they think, is this in accordance to the teachings of the Quran and Ahlul Bayt? In accordance to the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now do you understand the challenge? And this is just the beginning of the hadith. It's not easy to enter that group. It's not going to be easy. The whole mindset has to change. What is mine is not mine. It is, I'm a custodian of this wealth, I have to find the right place to give it. In this world, we all talk about money and capital, right? I am a custodian of that. Where do I need to give it? Can you imagine if people change that mindset? Can you imagine if people change their mindset of rather than accumulate this, they're giving? In the last, you know, this is a statistical fact. Since the financial crisis, 12 years, right? Almost 12 years financial crisis. The richest 1% have got richer. I don't have the exact numbers, although it's just come through my head. But I'm giving you exact numbers. The richest 1% in the world have got far, far richer. The wealth has gone through the roof on a scale never seen before. The rest of the world has gone poor. What do you think? What effect will that have on the global community? At some point, it'll crack. People will look and say, they live in that lifestyle, we're living this lifestyle, we're struggling day to day, and they're not even paying their taxes. You see the sense of injustice that's coming into society. Okay? Imam is trying to warn us, saying, no, don't think this wealth is yours. Think, where do I need to get it? Don't become attached to it. It is yours, don't become attached to it. Salatu ala Muhammad wa Imam continues, he says, if you change your mindset and if you start thinking in those terms, this world becomes of a low state. The world, Iblis and creation all become low. The only thing you will not yearn for after this world is wealth or personal pride. That's not your objective. Your objective is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be submitted into His mercy. And it's constantly your objective. He will not seek what people have for glory or superiority, and will not leave His days to pass away in vain. Your mindset becomes different. What am I going to achieve today? You wake up with the objective, what do I do? Allah, what are you expecting of me today? Not just your 5 salahs. I used to, when I first started, is make sure everyone prays. My objective was make sure when I leave the lectures, make sure that if someone is not praying, they get that message of prayer. Now I am counting on you guys, because I've been in the community now at least 10, 15 years of lecturing, that you're all praying. Okay? So if you're not, pray 5 times a day. Okay? Pray 5 times a day. And for Shias, it's so easy as well. And it's 3 times a day, effectively. Okay? The poor Sunnis have to do it 5 times a day. Yep. Smart, I'm joking. I'm trying, because you're looking so seriously at me, right? You're looking so seriously at me. But pray 5 times a day. That's essential, right? But that cannot be your only objective. Is what time is the prayers today? That is fine. That should be set in your routine. That should be part of your daily routine. What am I going to achieve today? I'm not going to waste my whole days just sitting there in front of the streaming services or on the PlayStation fighting my mates online. Am I going to waste my whole day doing that? I'm not saying don't do it. It's okay. It's a good way to communicate with your friends, have a laugh. Because your parents don't let you out into the parks anymore, like we used to do, right? But there's a time. Give time for other things. Give time to other things. Give time to the Quran. Give time to the Hadith. Give time to science. If you want to watch YouTube, you're desperate, you really want the iPad, you want to watch YouTube, watch a documentary, learn something from it. Perchance they may change you. Not some guy who's commentating on some guy who's doing something that you don't even know what he's doing. I mean, it's ridiculous. That is a total and utter waste of time. A guy who's talking about a guy who's doing something. So what are you talking about? It happens in my household as well, that's why I can talk about it. So what are you watching? I try to be part of, what are you doing? Let me sit with you. So that guy is watching that guy who's doing something. It's like, are you crazy? Are you seriously crazy? You're wasting your whole day on watching this guy who's watching another guy who's doing something. You're wasting your time. Go and do what that first guy was doing. Try to replicate it. What is it? Flicking the bottle, right? I mean, for God's sake, you're watching a guy who's commentating on another guy who's flicking a bottle. Well, go and flick the bottle yourself. I mean, honestly, it winds me up. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Seriously, we have to question ourselves. I know when you're young, you can get away with it. But as you get older, seriously, start thinking about how you divide your time. Sallallahu alaihi wa I'm glad that made you guys all smile, because I can see some very serious faces looking straight back at me. The Imam then says, he says, there are 9 things to advise for those seeking the path of Allah. So those that want to be in this group, there are 9 things. Okay? 3 are with regards to your 3 are with regards to food. Imam doesn't actually say this, I'm simplifying it. 3 are regards to food, 3 are regards to patience, and 3 are regards to knowledge. Okay. Inshallah, we'll wrap up on this. I was planning to go through some verses of the Holy Quran, but we will not have time. And I really want to get these messages across, right? So 3 are regards to food, 3 are regards to patience, and 3 are regards to knowledge. Now, okay, I'm going to give you a confession. As you can tell, I'm overweight. Okay? Don't tell my wife, right? But I'm overweight, right? So I'll be honest with you. I got a personal fitness instructor just before lockdown. So I was paying a fortune for this personal fitness instructor. I went in the first session and did some exercises, tested me out, weighed me up. He said, "Oh, yeah, you're overweight." I said, "Yeah, I know, that's why I'm here." I was like, "Okay, all right. Yeah, what I suggest you do is eat less." And I was like, "Hold on a minute, I paid a fortune to come and see you, and the first piece of advice is eat less." "Okay, that's fine, that's fine." "Yeah, you see this plate that you have? Eat half of that. The other half, just put some greens on." "Okay, fine, that's good." So that was food. And he said, "Actually, you know what? Eat less, drink more water." I was like, "Okay, fine, I will drink more water as well. And then make sure you leave some space so you don't fill yourself fully up." At that point, I'm looking at him and said, "I've spent a fortune to come and sit in front of you. And if I'd only read the hadith of the Holy Prophet." What's the hadith? 1/3 food, 1/3 water, 1/3 air. Do not fill your stomach up to the maximum. 1/3 food, 1/3 water, 1/3 air. Imam Sadiq repeats this hadith. He said, start from there. This is what gets most people about this hadith. Most is knowledge, learn, practice, pray. The Imam starts, no, start with your diet. And we know your diet is all wrong. We know. You can see, right? The diet's all wrong. Okay? Start with the diet. Start with what's going inside you, your physical, what's helping your body grow, especially you youngsters. I'm so glad the footballers moved away the Coke bottles and moved away the alcoholic bottles, right? They made a statement and said, listen, look at us. By the way, it wasn't from drinking those, it was from drinking water. Yeah? They were making footballers who were making a statement. Holy Prophet made that statement 1400 years ago. He gave you the basis. He says, look at your diet first and foremost, because that affects you day to day. It'll affect your well-being, it'll affect your mental ability to concentrate, it affects all of those things. Then the Imam says, that's the first part. So, eat in balance. Then the Imam says, only eat what is halal. Obviously, only eat what is halal. Do not become tempted with what is haram, even if it looks interesting. And then he said, only eat when you're hungry. Only eat when you're hungry. Again, this takes some thinking about. We sit down for breakfast, we sit down for tea, we sit down for lunch, and we fill our plates up. We go to a restaurant, we fill the plates up. He says, no, only eat when you're hungry. So eat, a third. Eat only halal, only eat when you're hungry. Eat what is necessary. This is why Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, this holy personality was so incredible that he would open his fast with salt. You've heard the story of his shahada. When his daughter brought him milk and bread, he said, no, I'll take them all away. Ali doesn't need it. They ate when they needed to eat. Okay? Eat when you need it. Right? Don't make that the objective. And again, social media is full of it. This food, this restaurant, that restaurant. Go taste this, go taste that. Again, I'm not stopping you from it, but don't make that your be-all and end-all. People are literally there, planned their whole year out. We're going to go here, we're going to eat this, we're going to go there, we're going to eat this. That's the whole objective, that's the whole life. We ate there, that was great food. We ate there, that was bad food. That whole social, that whole routine, the whole social interaction is built around food. When the Imam's saying the opposite, he's saying, listen, eat when you need, eat what's necessary, and eat in the right proportions. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The second thing is patience, but more than patience, if I simplify it, it's how to interact with other people, which I alluded to at the beginning. Right? The Imam says, I'm going to give you 3 lessons about how to interact with other people. He says, if someone insults you and says, and I will insult you with 10 things, you should respond to him. You will not hear even one bad thing about you. Someone insults you, respond to them, say you will not even hear one bad thing from us. What happens when people start insulting you? Well, they insulted us, we need to respond. Yes? That's the attitude. It's human nature. I need to respond. I'm going to put him down. I'm going to show him who he is. Imam Sadiq is saying no. When someone insults you, tell them. Tell them. Say, I heard you. And you will not hear one bad thing from me. My akhlaq is different from your akhlaq. My attitude is different from your attitude. My upbringing is different from your upbringing. My patrons, the holy Ahlul Bayt, are different from yours. We will not respond like that. If someone swears at you, say to them, and this swear not in the kind of offensive language, that will come in a minute, but in the sense of, I swear by God, Allah, Wallahi, I'm hearing a lot of that as well from the youngsters, Wallahi, Wallahi. Say, if you're truthful in what you say, then ask Allah to forgive me, and if you're lying in what you say, then I ask Allah to forgive you. So if you accuse me of something, you say, Allah, Wallahi, you did that, and they're being false. Say, if you're truthful, and then ask Allah to forgive me. But if you are false, then I ask Allah to forgive you. Again, look at the akhlaq. It's not quite turning the other cheek, that the Christians say. Okay? But it's countering. Turning the other cheek means I got slapped, I got hit, I walked away. No, it's responding. But telling you my akhlaq and my humanity is better and superior to yours. I'm a better human being than you. Trust me, that person will remember it forever. They may think at that point they've won an argument. They may think they're the superior, but it'll hit them and it'll hurt them for the rest of their lives. It'll stay inside them forever. Finally, he says, when people use obscene language, then give them advice and care. Don't respond in the same. Many of arguments, many disputes, especially amongst the youth, especially amongst teenagers, we get it all, the knife crime, these fights, this is broken out, this poor 15-year-old's been stabbed. Most of them start from stupid disputes and stupid arguments in the playground, in the classrooms, or out in the high street, or whatever they may be. They all start, every time you trace it back, you read the articles, you go back to the origins, they had a dispute in the class, they had a discussion, and before you know it, it's got blown out, and eventually someone picked up a knife and stabbed the other person. Imam is saying, be careful. Why are you escalating? If the other person is escalating, why are you escalating? De-escalate the situation. Calm them down, and then talk to them. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The final point the Imam says, I'm way over time, and I apologize, it's my last night, so I need to get these last points across to you, and then we've got Masahib as well. The final point the Imam raises is with regards to knowledge. And this I really want you to take away. It says, with regards to knowledge, ask the scholars that which you do not know. I repeat this, and I will repeat it over and over again, right? And I've said this on numerous occasions with all of you, is if you don't know, ask a scholar. Okay? Don't know, ask a scholar. Don't speculate, right? Don't go on YouTube, ask a scholar. And if you're still not satisfied, ask another scholar. Nowadays, you can even email scholars. You go online, Sayyid Sistani's office is open. If you don't trust anyone, just send the message to Sayyid Sistani's office. They do eventually respond. Okay. But the Imam continues, avoid asking them if it will cause embarrassment or a trial. Okay, I want to spend a bit of time on this. I don't know time at all. All I will say is look at the story of Hazrat Saleh in the Holy Quran. Okay. If you know the general rules, stick to them. A lot of people want to go into a lot of detail. But once you go into the details, then whatever the answer comes, you will need to practice it. We said that right at the outset, knowledge is there to be applied. Okay? If you think it's going to cause embarrassment, then go with what basic knowledge you have and just stick with it. And by that means, what I don't want someone to go away saying, well, I don't know how many times a day I need to pray. You know how many times you need to pray, right? Okay? Go on. But be careful about going into a lot of nitty-gritty. A lot of detail. Can I have my socks this way? Can I do this? Sometimes you get those questions, right? And they cause, some of those questions are coming from Shaitan. Because he wants you to become obsessed with these little details and you miss the bigger picture. What is the bigger picture? Quran, Ahlul Bayt, Furuddin. If you're not even doing those and you're getting stuck on some nitty-gritty little point, you've missed the boat, you've missed the idea. The idea is you do the fundamentals and the basics first, and if you've still got time, then we can go into the nitty-gritty and the minor details, right? So Imam is telling you this. If you don't know, ask. If you feel embarrassment and shame, then be careful what you ask for. He continues, and we touched on this a few nights ago, so I'm not going to spend any time. Be wary of offering, or of acting on your own opinion. When it comes to the deen, be wary. Don't just make it up. Don't say, I think this is correct. As we get older, we do have this tendency. You guys are young, but as you get older, you do have this tendency. I used to do it this way. I want to do it this way. I think it's this way. I think it's nothing to do with this. Either you're going to spend time, you're going to study, or you're not. If you don't want to study, then refer to a scholar. Okay? We have to be very careful. Very, very careful on this point. And take precaution in all matters that you can find a way of precaution. Finally, and he refers this, and this is to scholars, not necessarily to us, avoid giving religious rulings, just as you would avoid a lion. do not make your neck a bridge for the people. When Sayyid Sistani gives a fatwa, then all of us that act in accordance with the fatwa of Sayyid Sistani, it is on his neck if he's got it wrong. We are absolved on the Day of Judgment. We will say, oh Allah, we did this because Sayyid Sistani had given us that fatwa. We read it in his Risala, or some scholars told us that that is the view of Sayyid Sistani. It's on his neck. Just think what has to go through a scholar's mind before they write down a fatwa. It's not easy. Let's get a fatwa for this, and let's get a fatwa for this. And the scholars, I'll give you an example. I'm totally over my time. I'll give you an example. I remember a group from one of the other centres had a question. They wrote to Sayyid Sistani, so we've got a question. It keeps coming up over and over again in the community. And the person that went, the delegation was sent to Sayyid Sistani. They said when we turned up there, Sayyid Sistani had surrounded himself with 5 other scholars. And then when they asked what the other scholars were, Sayyid Sistani had said, I want to confer with them before we give you the judgment. But first you describe your situation. Look, when a marja, when a mujtahid, Sayyid Khoy was like that as well, and Sayyid Khoy was the greatest of all for many, many generations, of the greatest of all mujtahids that ever lived. Okay? Right? They were like that. They would not just give a willy-nilly fatwa. Okay? This idea that we have about the Muslims, oh, they give fatwas left, right, and center. No, a genuine scholar will think 100 times before they give the fatwa. My dear brothers and sisters, I hope you've taken away, if you want to be a part of the Ibadat Salihin, knowledge and practicing that knowledge and implementing that knowledge is the crucial thing. Knowledge without implementation or practice is useless. When you start practicing and implementing it, a nur is created in your heart, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enlighten you even further. Practice, practical Islam is a practical religion. That's what the surahs, the ayahs that we're going to touch on talks about that from the teachings of the Holy Quran. But unfortunately, we've told you we're out of time. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala
Is the toilet downstairs?
My dear brothers and sisters, when the companions of Imam Hussain had all been martyred, it was the turn of the Bani Hashim. And according to the historians, the first of the Bani Hashim to proceed and become martyred was the son of Imam Hussain, Ali Akbar. Narration said that he was either 18, some say he was in his 20s. He was still a young man, relatively young man. The reason that Ali Akbar went first was that Imam Hussain wanted to make sure that none of the other Bani Hashim thought that he was saving his own sons. He instructed his sons, Ali Akbar, you go first. You'll be the first to be martyred. I know we commemorated it on the last night, but he was the first of the Bani Hashim to go forth. He was the first of the Bani Hashim to go forth. Now, Hazrat Ali Akbar, Mawla Hussain, they said that the departure of Hazrat Ali Akbar from the khayma, from the tents, was very difficult. He first asked permission from his father, and Imam Hussain said, yes, son. Ali, go into battle. But before you go and get the permission of the ladies. And they said that Ali Akbar found that the most difficult than asking his father for permission. So when he went in, the ladies were crying, they were hugging. They knew he wasn't going to come back. And a great cry went up at that time. Eventually, Hazrat Ali Akbar came back. Mawla Hussain prepared him, mounted him on a horse, and Hazrat Ali Akbar started going towards the battle. He'd only taken a few steps when he looked back. He saw his father following him. Hazrat Ali Akbar stopped. He said, oh, Father, you have given me permission. Why are you following me? Imam Hussain, with tears in his eyes, says, oh Ali Akbar, if only you had a son who was at the height of his youth, and I was sending him to certain, then you would appreciate what a father, the pain that the father is feeling. Oh Ali, understand that permission I gave was as an imam. Now this is the father wanting to bid a final farewell. They embraced each other and cried. And then finally, Hazrat Ali Akbar went into the battle. At this point, there were only a handful of people with Imam Hussein, and the battle was one-to-one combat, single combat. Okay? It said Hazrat Ali Akbar killed over 100 of their warriors. Eventually, they said, you know what? We're not going to defeat him one-to-one. Let's all attack him at the same time. They attacked him from the left and from the right. Hazrat Ali Akbar fought him off over and over again. Eventually, Hazrat Ali Akbar returned to his father. Allah. He said, Imam Hussein, when he was watching the battle, he prayed. He said, oh Allah, return this son of mine to me for one last salah. Who was Hazrat Ali Akbar? Hazrat Ali Akbar was the walking, talking example of the Holy Prophet. In the way in his looks, in his attributes, in his tongue, the way he communicated, he was the walking, talking prophet. And Imam Hussein, when he sent him, called out to Yamid Yazid and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, bear witness, I am sending to them an example, a prototype, an example of the Holy Prophet. And look at them, they're preparing to kill him. Hazrat Ali Akbar returned to his Baba at this point. He asked the most difficult question from his father at this point. My dear brothers and sisters, he asked my Mawla Hussein, he said, oh Baba, I'm thirsty. This armor has become too heavy for me, and the army is surrounding me from all sides. I am thirsty. Mawla Hussein, tears flowed down his eyes. He cried, he said, oh my son, you have come to me at this point. You ask of me something I cannot give you. I have no water. Mawla Hussein said, take off the armor. Ali Akbar took off the armor. He gave him his ring. He said, suck on this ring. Maybe it'll get rid of some of the thirst. And oh, Ali Akbar, now return to the battle, for the Holy Prophet is waiting for you on the other side. Go drink from Hawd al-Kawthar. Hazrat Ali Akbar returned again to the battle. The armor is off. He's in his shirt. He has a sword. He enters the battle. Again, they attack him from all sides. Eventually, one Mal'oon from a distance throws a spear which pierces the heart of Ali Akbar. And he can no longer contain himself. He falls from the horse and he calls out to his father, oh Baba, accept the salam of your son. And he said that Mawla Hussein at this point fell on the ground of Karbala. Some say that he crawled and he fell, and he would stand and he would fall again. He said, oh Ali, call out to me, I cannot see you on the plains of Karbala. Oh my dear brothers and sisters, my Mawla Hussein had lost all sight. Yaqub had not even lost his son Yusuf, and his eyes went blind. He cried for him all the time. This is, my Mawla Hussein was watching his son die in front of him. My Mawla Hussein got to Ali Akbar. He put his head in his lap. Hazrat Ali Akbar had his hand over that broken spear that had pierced his heart. And Mawla Hussein said, oh my son, is there any last request? I said, Baba, I am feeling this pain. This broken spear has pierced my heart. Take this out. I'm feeling the pain. And I know it's going to be difficult for you. And Mawla Hussein looked towards Najaf, looked back at his son Ali, said, Ya Ali, and he took out the spear from his heart, and my Mawla Ali Akbar departed from this world. It is said that at this point, my Mawla Hussein called out to the youth of Bani Hashim. He said, oh youth, come help this old man, take back his young son to the tents. It is said that at this point, Hazrat Zainab rushed out from the tent. She fell on the body of Hazrat Ali Akbar. My Mawla Hussein forgot all about his son, and he said to her, Zainab, Hussein is still alive. It's not time for you to come out of the tent. He abandoned his son. He took Hazrat Zainab back to the tent.